Hey there, YouTuber. So going to install i3-12100f into the Asrock Z690m-ITX AX motherboard for CPU cooler in this video. The Thermalright, hopefully you can see that, Assassin X90 SE. All right. Now, RAM. Always check the compatibility. I have not done that, so this RAM may or may not work. We'll find out when we boot it up. But for those of you that don't have 30 sticks of DDR4 RAM sitting around, you might want to check to make sure RAM that you have is compatible. All I'm going to do if it doesn't boot up is switch the RAM out and we'll see how it goes. All right. So first thing we're going to do, folks, is we're going to put our CPU in. Let's rotate this around, pop that open, pop this open. And, you know, take your time doing this. You may see me at times go faster than I should. Try to keep the pace easy enough to follow. All right, so as I'm putting this in, there's a triangle here and a triangle here. And let's go ahead and just get that up and close and personal so you can see it. And, all right. Whatever you do, do not turn that completely on its side, though, okay? You may obviously damage the CPU if it pops out. So I always like to touch this, see that the green board should be about level with this gray framework. All right, once it's in there, push that down. Sometimes this thing pops off, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you got to use your hands and put that back. Take this and put it in your box for your motherboard. Right now, as I did that and things moved around, let's make sure the CPU is still seated good. Yep, it is. Drop that down, put your finger right here, pull down on the lever, and boom. All right, that's in good. Now, we're going to wait to put the thermal paste on. You don't want to get that on your fingers as you're trying to put your CPU cooler in. So you should have got a back plate that looks like this, LGA 1700, right? There's probably an 1151 in there. You want the 1700. And so basically, flipping this over, we're going to fit that in there like so. Hold that down, and I'm going to keep my hands on it. And as I get up to the counter or table, whatever you're working on, basically slide it across there, and it will stay in place. All right. Now, the tape that you saw on the back of it, if you plan on keeping the CPU cooler on here for a long time, go ahead and take it off. If not, you know, like me, you might not want to. These things are a huge pain in the ass to get off with some types of tape there that they put down. You may end up with a serious headache later. But all right, so blue spacers in your box. Blues for LGA 1700. If you're following this to do 1151 or 1200 motherboard, you will use one of the other colors. I hate to interrupt this for the 1700 build, but you guys will have the labels on here, right? So spacers, this would be for your 1151, 1200, and that's A and B. All right. Now, we've got this in. We've got to put these mounting brackets on, right? So, thing is, we got to know which way our CPU cooler is going to go. We want it oriented like this. You can see there's more of an offset over here. The fan's going to end up on that side. It needs to sit down like that, all right? That means that this needs to sit like that, all right? Now, this is a good place if you have a magnetic screwdriver. You'll want that. I'm slowly getting better doing this with these. I always mention Noctua. Like, I think Noctua has the best patent, so therefore everybody else has to do something different. Time for a screwdriver, right? So this video is actually part one. We're going to upgrade War Mother's desktop. If you've been on the channel long enough, you may have seen that. We're going to put a better CPU in it. And eventually this will actually, I'll replace this with the i3-13100f. She has the i5-10400, which for gaming, I believe that this CPU is better. The i3-13100f definitely is better. Alright, so here we go again. Now, I will actually put that one in the case, so that's a mid-tower, just so you know. Now, why did I get her Mini ITX the first time and then this one? That's a good question, folks. Darn good question. Probably because I had it available. That is probably the easiest thing I can say. Alright, so I'm not sure this is going in. There we go. We'll make sure these go in perpendicular to the board, right? And if you can do it, try and hold on somehow with two hands so you do not drop your Phillips head screwdriver and damage part of your motherboard. I may have dropped a Phillips head on the socket without a CPU cover on. That was an OEM computer. Now, also, maybe not the best idea to be working on this on a counter without some kind of padding material between you and the hard surface. So sometimes we forget these kind of things, but does it make a difference? You'll probably see 100 videos on here where I have done this directly on the counter, but it only takes that one time, folks. One time and something gets screwed up, right? Alright, so that's on nice and tight. We're going to go Arctic MX4 in this video, and I think I'm going to do one line down the middle, two other little lines, and then put our thermal paste to the side. Now, this guy is ready to go on here. I'm using what looks like a number 2 Phillips. Number 1 probably was better for the for those other screws I just used, but these screws are bigger. So I'm just trying to get a couple threads on each side of this, just so you know what I'm trying to do here. And for some reason, folks, we're having difficulty. There we go. Alright, so a couple threads, jump back to the other side, a couple more threads. You want this to come down somewhat level and spread that thermal paste. Alright, so we're continuing to tighten down. Alright, so one side's tight, and boom, second one. Alright, now, folks, let's put our RAM in just in case the CPU fan covers it up. It may not, but it'll save us the headache later. RAM can go in only one way. Now, I always say, you know, only install one stick of RAM, alright, for testing purposes. I'm putting the second one in. I'm sure everything's going to be fine. But just know that you may need to remove one. If this doesn't boot up right, you might have one bad RAM slot. It happens way more than it should. Now, looking at this motherboard, we have a fan header here. And a fan header here. Question is, which one is which, folks? So let's get that camera up there close so you can see. Hopefully it'll focus. It almost looks like that says, it doesn't say CPU fan. Alright, what's the other one say? CPU fan. There it is. Okay. So, this is the intake side. Exhaust, right? The ugly side is the exhaust side. You want intake, suck in cool air, blow it across the fan, so it needs to be in this position. All right. Something you can do, you see how the cable's coming out of the fan. If you try and wrap that around, you might be able to get a little less cable to have to screw with later. You still may need some kind of zip tie, but if we do it like that, we have less cable. All right. Sometimes you'll see that I go straight to the twist tie. I don't even screw around with that, but this can definitely help. And you know, I'll hear about it from viewers if I do it my normal way. So, all right. So you saw how I put those in the two holes on the end of this. Then I'm just going to pull this into location. All right. With this CPU fan, you could potentially put these on first and then hook this in at the same time. Now, of course, there's so many ways to do this, you know. Figuring out what works best for you folks, that's the way you need to do this. Now, of course, if you follow along, for some reason that's sticking, not going in the hole, or I'm in the wrong spot. There we go. And boom. All right. Now, of course, I took the heatsink out, put that somewhere, but you know, an M.2, you would want to install that here, all right? But personally, you should verify this will boot to BIOS, all right, before you put the M.2 in. So the next part of this video, we're going to hook this thing up. I'm going to grab a cheap graphics card, and let's see, we'll need a power supply and something to turn this on. All right, so this is not our setup, but you can see this is how I test a lot of computers, right? Everything's good on here. I've got this little power supply. I'm going to take this apart, leave the graphics card connected. That way I don't have to make all those extra connections. And then you know what? Never mind. We're going to grab a different graphics card so you can see that aspect. All right, let's get that going. All right, so here's our motherboard. 24-pin power connector, or 20+4, however you want to refer to that. ATX power, it comes from your power supply. Snap that in. CPU power connector right there. Now if I can find the cable that I took out of the other computer. There it is. It should say CPU on it, okay? Plug that in. Now these can only go in one way. That's snapped in. We're good there. Now I'm going to put this to the edge for the graphics card. Got this, I said cheap, you know, this thing was like 150 bucks or 160 when I bought it. So maybe not that cheap. Plug that in. Now I can see a light on the motherboard. That tells me I did not turn off the power supply before doing this. So I'm going to snap that off. Okay, that's the off position. All right, now what we need over on this side, folks, we're going to need an HDMI cable. So if you had integrated graphics, you could plug your HDMI into that spot, right? But we don't have it, so we're going to put this in. And then mouse, keyboard. And then the only thing left, I have this power connector and HDD reset. This is basically what comes out of a case. You would want to use this if you're going to test it outside of it like I'm doing. Now, the goofy thing is, on an ITX motherboard, they move the front panel connectors. It should be right down here, and it's rotated 90 degrees, all right? So let's drop you down a little bit. Now, unfortunately, I can't get the camera too close because of the base. But it should be this top row, third and fourth pins. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you probably couldn't see that because my hand was in the way. But that is what that looks like, all right? Now, put the power supply on. We've got RAM. You got the CPU installed. Got a CPU fan. There's power to the motherboard. It's energized. We've got the graphics card. We have HDMI cable. We have a monitor right there. And we're going to hit power. See the power supply on, graphics card's on, CPU fan's on. In a moment, hopefully we'll see something on our screen. Otherwise, we'll have to go back and see what we screwed up. So far, there we go. We'll be in the BIOS in a moment, folks. There it is. So we're in the BIOS. And just so you guys know, this is how you would overclock your RAM. If this is good up to 3600 megahertz, so we would click that. Now we see profile 1. You see 3600 here. If we had drives installed, you would see those. You can set your fan speed right there. Excuse me, boot priority would be over here. Then somewhere in here, folks, there is the BIOS version 5.01. So probably not good for 13th gen. So I'll have to do an update to the BIOS. You'll see that on this channel if you look for it, or down below I'll have a link. But now that I have done XMP, let's go ahead and save and exit and see if this RAM is actually compatible, all right? In the meantime, I'm going to have a swig of my Diet Pepsi. And hopefully you guys aren't getting sick with me holding the tripod. Okay, so it's going to boot to BIOS. That doesn't necessarily mean that the RAM's good. You're going to find out if it's good when you're running a program or just in Windows. If it starts having all kinds of problems, you might find out that your RAM is not so great. But that's enough of that. I'll do a BIOS overview if you want to learn more about it or see more. And just to, so you guys can see whether this CPU cooler will fit in every ITX case, another story. It just happens to be one of my cheaper ones. And I'm going to take back my Noctua from War Mother. She's got the little 92mm Noctua in there. I want to bring that back down here. So, got RAM full. Don't have any hard drives. Don't have any M.2s. But there you go, folks. Thanks for checking it out. Please like, please subscribe. Thank you.